becoming your most potent spiritual leader. Have you been hearing the call to expand your spiritual gifts and step into your next level of conscious leadership? If you're a coach, healer, or a spiritual leader, you can learn more about Shaman School and growing your spiritual business on our website, holtonhealingarts.com, or send me a DM at Holton Healing Arts. So hello and welcome. Want to introduce to you today Joan Yue. Joan is a chemist turned alchemist, and she helps people learn to connect to their intuition and listen to it and move through those blocks so they can live with more joy and abundance. And I'm so excited to have you here with us today, Joan.
Thank you for inviting me.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder if we could just start, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your journey and what brought you to the work that you do today.
Mm-hmm. So I was born in China, and I started with very humble beginning, and my parents, they couldn't afford a babysitter, so my mom would took me to work and put me in the tool shed. And so because of that, I had a lot of fear and Ph.D. type of symptoms since small. But magically, for me, even though my parents, they didn't have much education, my mom didn't have formal education, and my dad only had elementary school education. But something came to me when I was in third grade that I activate the power of intention. So I was a very average student, but one day it dawned on me when I grow up, I want to go to US, like furthest place from China. But that somehow that power of intention brought me all the way to come to US at 21 to pursue my Ph.D. in chemistry. So basically, by fourth grade, I started to excel. And then in the middle school, I won competitions in math and English, all kinds of stuff. And in college, even though because I was highly anxious, I had hard time focus, but because I couldn't focus on the long text, so I would flunk politics because you have to read long text. But the chemistry texts are short, and so I would write the keyword of every sentence 5 times so I can stay focused. And guess what? Then we became top student. Out of 150 students, I was the first one who had the opportunity to come to the US when I graduated.
Wow.
So it really, changed me. Coming to US changed my life completely. But I was always very anxious. I strive in corporate, I get to technical director, but I always know life should be ease, should be peace, not all this anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I study lots of books, but I always have nightmare several times a week of being chased by a bad guy. Mm-hmm. And after I started to follow my mentor who taught movement feedback, I really felt that should be my life mission. And guess what? Those nightmares stopped. It was life purpose chasing me. So forced me to go from technical director, become alchemist.
I love that. I have to just interject. It made me think of the story and I've experienced this also in my dreams with in the form of animal medicine. So when I was a kid, for years, I would have dreams that wolves were coming to get me. And the wolf ended up being a guide that I worked with that really helped me grow. And there was at one point, after years of dreaming about the wolves coming to get me, that I slowly started to realize that I could actually just turn around and they became my friends
Mm-hmm.
instead of running away from the thing. So, so you have lots of pretty incredible stories, and embody very well somebody who is led by spirit. Can you share some of the ways that that's shown up in your life?
Yeah, so I'll share like a more regular one, then gradually go into a bigger one. So I literally live a life guided by spirit. That means that I don't spend a lot of time in my head, which I did a lot. I was into Ph.D, chemistry, all that. But when I learned to be led by spirit, I let go of figuring out. So I always now know how it will come to me. And I give you an example. Last year, we went to Cancun for a retreat, and I have an assistant who told me the first day I was planning to start at 1 p.m. And he said, do you know in Cancun, it's really hot. Okay. And at 1 p.m. And I say, but Spirit told me 2 months ago to start at 1 p.m. And guess what? When we started the event, we hung a slack line and it took time to find that place. And the shade come over when we started at 1 p.m. And it took, it literally the time to set up the computers, set up the slack line, everything we started exactly at 1 p.m. And we had 9 rooms. And guess what? The one we designate for the meeting room, it's the only one has a TV with HDMI cable. So we can plug in and watch the replay. And everyone joke with me, Spirit is the best event planner. Because I always like, I know it's going to work. And I have one person who went, and 2 months before, he said, it's going to have Cancun, the hurricane in Cancun, and in October. And I say, that's never my concern because I know the weather will be perfect. And he's like doubtful. So 2 weeks before that, he was watching the weather every day. And they did have some hurricanes, some thunderstorm, but when we arrived, everything was perfect. So I always have that deep trust that spirit, and we have so many helpers, like things would always work out because I know when I'm in alignment, serving people with that things will work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you shared about the dream and that it was the life purpose coming for you. Mm-hmm. And being able to trust that. And I'm curious, it just made me think, because I get this question fairly often where folks, can I just ask what that experience was like? How did you know, like what came together so you understood what that purpose was and how to move forward? Because I feel like a lot of people sometimes are looking for how to know that.
Yeah. And then I have people asking me, so it's that quiet quality, that comes certainty, that knowing. It's if you are busy figuring it out in your head and you are doing mental deliberation, I can tell you it's not from spirit. because the guidance only activate when you are out of your head. So when I teach people, I literally teach people to stay connect to their body intelligence, connect to your heart, connect to your gut brain. And that's when you connect to the silence. We are being led by spirit, means that it's not our life. We are an expression of spirit. We are spirit expressing itself in time and space. So our life is being led by spirit. We have the free will. At the same time, most of us have so many resistance. The guidance is always there, but we run too much noise. So the more we stay out of our ego, out of our thinking head, the more we can hear the silence and the guidance. And for me, before I had more noise, now I literally can hear very clearly, even I sit here. I'll give you a few examples. When I was more noisy, I would have vivid dreams telling me what's going to happen. And so, I feel that spirit taught me how to trust. So I trade stock markets. And before I was in like a stock trading group, and I would tell people my dream about, I would dream about this stock will go from 25 to 50 next week. And guess what? It will go to 50.5, but I got so nervous, I get out at 45. Do you get it? So I really got, it was spirit teaching me to trust. And in 2018, market was like 3,200. And I had the dream, and I wrote a blog. It's in Chinese, a stock blog. And there were thousands of followers. But I dreamed about in the it would drop to 2,600 or something. It literally had a 20% drop. And I was afraid of writing it on my blog because I saw it that there is some kind of support, but actually the market hit that and went to 22 something. But the part is that it happened within a month. No one believed me. I wrote it in my little group, stock group. No one believed me, and it happened within a month. So I want people to get anything you want, anything you need to know. It's knowable in advance because, and I also had a dream. We had a dreams sharing group, and I dreamed about the market have a big line down, and my friend who didn't know how to trade made 6,900, and it was like a big gap and a big line, and the next day. We were looking at the market and asked people what happened to those weekly lines, and they said the market had a meltdown. I didn't even have the term, but the dream showed me in 2 minutes it dropped that much. Do you get that? So it's like that deep connection. You can have anything you want because, and you don't need to figure out how. See how come to you. I have another example. Before I was more heady. I was doing. I had my program, right, and I focused on 3 pieces, and it was about connecting to spirit, alignment to spirit, and something else I forgot, insight, seeing life. But then it's a part that I miss. Is even though I clear the stuck energy, and people are more connected, but our brains still run the old program. And so I need to do reprogramming. But what happened, it came to me in the dream, is that I was dreaming, building a baseball court, and they were big concrete base. And then in the middle, they were two little missing thing. And I was wondering, four base, but I thought I have three. And do you get the base is about you need to teach people to align their mind and reprogram too. Yes. So I got that part, do you see? And then usually when you are guided by spirit, you randomly see something in the website, or like something I come across Facebook or email, and then I always follow those leads. And guess what? Now I developed that part, and it makes everything more powerful. So it's like it always comes to me how to do things. I want also to share one. Now I don't even need to dream. So sometimes when things doesn't work, it's also spirit helping you. So last year in December, I know it's December 13th, and I took a course in crypto, how to set up those crypto to make use of the wiggling. Like crypto wiggle a lot, you can make 25 cents here and there, and so you wiggle out a lot of money. And guess what? Everyone, they set up this account. It takes 2 hours to approve. Mine, they wouldn't approve it. So in January, it's still not approved. And I started to realize spirit didn't want me to invest in it. So I went to look at the chart, and I told everyone, this crypto is going to drop. Do you know? I told everyone, it's going to drop. And so I realized I should put in the money. Spirit wouldn't let me put in the money. And then guess what? It dropped. And then I was sitting here, I thought, oh, that's a good opportunity. And then I hear a clear number. You are not going to invest until it reaches 27K. And it was at maybe 45K. the Bitcoin. That's a lot of distance, yes. You know? And I literally figure out it's good for me not to do it. So I didn't even care about it. And then until May, people started to tell me, oh, the crypto is at 30K. And I told everyone, wait, if 27K, for sure you'll hit it. It might go lower, but for sure you'll hit it. And guess what? It did hit it. And when it hit it, I went to check my account, which it takes 2 hours to approve. It was approved first week of May.
Wow.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
It's a protection. And then I started to invest, and it works. Do you get it? So, you know, good or bad, it's always for your best interest. And that's when you live a life lead by spirit. You have this deep trust. Everything is for your good. Even sometimes that, you know, I run into some difficulty, and I realize, oh, wow, I'm learning all kinds of lessons.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so curious too, because it's fascinating to me. I'm sure that, you know, spirit works through you in lots of different ways, but you seem to have such a connection with numbers. Is that something, I'm just curious what that means to you, or if that's something that was with you since you were a child as well, or did that develop over time with patterns?
That's something, when I first learned from Dr. Carl Wolf, he's a guru who taught us to connect to the quantum field through the body, so we can maintain it all the time. And he always said, Joe, it's going to be harder for you. And I heard about the clarity is that I learned about Dr. Carl Wolf from one of his students through a Aware show. But then when I heard that Dr. Carl Wolf would come out of retirement, and I drove to take his weekend class, and on the way, I realized I'm going to pass on his work. So like for me, I get that clarity. But in terms of the market, that's something because I had interest, and somehow when you have interest and you cannot be very attached. There are times that ego is talking. When I'm not really attached and I hear something very clearly, and people say, how do you tell from spirit? I'll tell you several things. At first, it didn't have like confusion around it. If you're debating about something, for sure. If you have an insight and then all this debating, the debating is wrong. It's your ego. It's this clear insight. Also, sometimes you can use muscle tests, but I find muscle tests, sometimes if you're in your head, it doesn't work also.
Right.
And so the dreams, and sometimes I would get things out of blue, like because the spirit is sending helper, right? sending
some
helper.
reinforcements.
Yeah, and I would go, oh wow, there's some message there. So I would suggest people, be open-minded when you are given information, because there is no accident. That to my mind, and always like. I would sometimes have free source tell me the same thing. I know, okay, that's something I need to study a little bit, something like that. Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more about how you're carrying on the work that you do now. And you teach about abundance, is that correct?
Yeah, so I teach people to superpower the abundance, and it's more from mind, body, and spirit alignment, because there's a lot of work out there about manifesting through thinking, and that I find it has some effect. But what's really important is our stuck energy, our nervous system need to release those. And then we also embody this dreamlike emotional state. And when you do movement, what I find, when people move, I can see the patterns. Sometimes it's unconscious patterns that holding them back, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So in the movement, people oftentimes they are new, and I tell them that's how you live your life, and they were like, how did you know? But all that information, especially you are connected to the quantum field, it's just like that kind of information come through easily. And it really helps people move out of those stuck patterns that hold them back. And then my one-on-ones, which is kind of unique, because I remember I mentioned I have PTSD symptoms for a long time, but now I don't have it. But I know how to connect, because the truth, right? There is only one spirit. And we are just different expression. When I deeply connected to the spirit, I literally can feel the other person's repressed emotion. And I physically release it of me. So that's literally. And when I do that, the results are really profound. Like people have like I always tell people I don't do helping, but I release repressed emotion, and guess what? But people come back with insomnia gone in one session, acid reflux gone, all kinds of issues, and little kids, their overactive behavior gone. After one session. It's like we are connected, and the other one is what's driving us. It's a lot of emotion we didn't want to feel, and once we release it, it's like the little kids issue I see is the tank is too full. Once you release it, a lot of symptoms disappear.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So you work with little ones as well.
Yeah. And then in terms of the abundance, we also teach people to how to not like release the old trauma imprinting in the nervous system. Because people say, oh, just affirm $1 million a year. That's not enough because your nervous system is stressed about that. So I teach people to release, so that way it becomes real to you and you live your dream life. If you go from all this like lack and misalignment to staying in alignment, even during emotional turmoil, and focus on your dream life, live in those emotional state, you can't help but live your dream life. Yeah.
Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Was that one more question for you? Because I'm curious, when you started to realize that purpose, were you still fighting it at that point? Did you still have resistance, or was that clear for you?
So actually, I started, so that's be careful with your intention. So I started with some kind of training. It's more about heady type of training, and we have like a graduation, and I declare I want to teach people self-improvement. I want to quit my job in 2 years. Do you know? My job, they want to move my company in 2 weeks to a different site. So I retire early.
I see.
Retire from my job. And I get to spend like 2 years before I became empty nested with my kids. and then that's when I wanted to solve myself out. Do you see? I have a lot of success. My husband and I, we were both Ph.D, so financial success was there. But I was always like very nervous, right? And I had PTSD symptoms running up all the time. Right. And so during the time I was sorting myself out, I heard about the movement feedback, and I knew that's the way. And it really, and my mission is to spread the work because it's so powerful. People shift out of patterns, and I want people to teach it.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, I love the work that you're putting out, and the joy that you exude is really wonderful. I've really enjoyed the times we've gotten to talk together a little bit. If people want to find out more about you and your work, where's the best place for them to do that?
They can contact me at support@movementfeedback.com.
Okay, great.
That's my email. And my website is movementfeedback.com. And I also have a Facebook group called Superpower Your Abundance.
Oh,
and I talk a lot about money. We did a Dare to Manifest Money 60-day challenge, I think in March. And then I also do I often go Facebook Live.
Wonderful, wonderful. We'll be sure to share the links in our show notes as well so people can find them easily. Oh, so beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Welcome to today's Member Query episode, where we explore questions about spiritual paths, intuitive gifts, growing a spiritual business, and shamanism. Do you have a question for us? Send us a DM at Holton Healing Arts. This question is from one of our Instagram followers. And the question is, I hear people talking about how much they hear and talk to their guides, and it's just not that clear to me. How do you get a clear connection with your guides? And this is a great question. I run into this a lot, even with people that actually do have really profound gifts. We use words like hearing and seeing, and we sometimes believe that if we're not seeing things like it's an actual movie, that somehow we're not actually in deep connection. When actually you take in information through your body, you can hear it orally, auditorily, or you can have a dialogue back and forth. When you meet people that talk about how their guides say this or guides say that and show them information, oftentimes these people either do have a really strong gift, or they've actually been training through a lot of their life. They've been working with a mentor, so they've developed their gift and their ability to have this dialogue back and forth. So I like to remind people that access to the spirit realm and your spiritual gifts is a spectrum. It's not like you either have it or you don't. So some people come into this life already really gifted, already with the passageways opened up for them. But just because you're not one of those people doesn't mean that you can't open those passageways for yourself. And what that takes is practice and mentoring. And when you're just starting, oftentimes it feels like nothing's happening when actually there's a lot going on. So people that have gotten good at being able to hear their guides have gotten good at being able to interpret the various different ways that the information comes through. So this can be signs from the earth. This can be, walking in nature or walking in a city, which is also part of nature, and getting clues from the universe, reading a sign, having an animal show up. It can be through your dream work. It can also be through your thoughts. So this is a place where a lot of people get sidetracked, is they think it's a thought, but it's actually spirit sending you a message. So with practice, you can learn to see these signs a lot easier and learn to interpret the messages a lot clearer. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Leading with Spirit. If you did, please share the link for this episode with your biggest takeaway, tagging me at Holton Healing Arts. It would also support me if you subscribed and left a rating and review of the show so we can support more people living their highest purpose.